first edition of the Notes on Slope, and this is going to be a basic introduction to slope, and we're going to find the slope of 2 points. So slope is a constant rate of change in the dependent variable, or the y value, when the independent variable, the x value, changes by a constant amount, which means by the same amount. So it's following the same pattern all the way through. And the y value is dependent on what the x value is. So another way of looking at the x value is the input, and dependent is the output. So the output depends on what the input is. So specifically, it is the ratio of the difference of the vertical distance, otherwise known as the rise, to the difference of the horizontal distance, which is the run. So vertical is up and down, horizontal is side to side. So slope is how steep your line is on a graph. So here are some slope ratios. And M represents the slope. So one of the ratios says rise over run, so that's rise vertical distance divided by run horizontal distance. You'll also hear it said as change in y over change in x, okay, which kind of goes back to the formula, which we're not going to cover in these notes. And also height over length, because height is up and down and length is side to side. So we have two steps to find in the slope. So we count up or down, okay, and again, up or down is that vertical distance. So let's write vertical next to this. And then we count left or right, and that's the horizontal. And vertical is also known as the rise, and horizontal known as the run. So what we're going to do below is we're going to graph the following points, and then we're going to find the actual slope. So it says graph the following points and find the slope. So the first thing I want you to do is graph those two coordinates, and remember to start at the origin. So we go over -2, down 1. There's our first coordinate, and then we start at the origin, over 2, up 2. Okay, now I'm going to show you two different ways here to find the slope of the same line. So I'm going to use blue color to show the first one. So I'm going to start at this point. So we said rise is up and down, so I'm going to count from this point. Now when I start counting, I don't count this point, and I go up until I get even with the other point. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3. So my rise is +3 because I went up, and when you go up, that's a positive direction. And now I'm going to start here and count 1, 2, 3, 4. So since I went to the right, that's +4. And 3 over 4 does not simplify. So our slope is 3/4. Now, what do you notice about these 2 points here? Let me go ahead and connect them. What do we notice about the line? Okay. The line slopes up from left to right. So when we identify a slope, we always read it from left to right. So you start here, and it slopes up. And we notice that this slope here is a positive slope. So let's write positive slope here. Okay, now let me show you the other way we could have done it. And you can just follow along here. You don't need to write this down, but I want to show you with a different color. Let's use black this time. So I could have also started with this point. Now watch what happens when I start from this point. So I go 1, 2, 3. So now I went down 3. So now my rise is -3 because I went down. Now I'm right here. So I'm going to count over to the other point. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I went left 4, so that's -4. Now, 3 over 4 can't simplify by itself, but negative divided by a negative is a positive. So this actually simplifies to 3/4. So students always ask me, does it matter which one we start with? No. Here it's 3/4. Here we get both negative, which simplifies to positive 3/4. So it doesn't matter which point you start with. Just remember, up is positive, down is negative. Right is positive, left is negative. Okay, so let's look at example B here. And we want to graph the 2 points, so start at the origin, and if the first coordinate is 0, you don't move left or right, but the second coordinate is -1, so I'm going to go down to here. Go back to the origin, first coordinate is -2, so I'm going to go left 2. Second coordinate is +4, so go up 4, make a dot right here. Now I'm going to grab blue here so I can show you the slope. Now this time I'm going to start with this point, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went down 5, so that's -5, so my rise is -5. And my run is going to be 1, 2, and since I went to the right, it's +2. Now, when my slope is negative, I want to rewrite it so that the negative is in front of the fraction. And when you have a negative fraction, typically you will see the negative in front of the fraction. It won't look like it's with the 5, it won't look like it's with the 2. But really, it is interchangeable. So we have -5 over 2. Now let me show you what it would look like if I went from this point up to this point. So start here, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went up 5, so that's +5, so my run would be +5. And, sorry, my rise would be +5, and my run would be 1, 2 to the left, so that would be -2. And once again, we have a positive divided by a negative, so that means the fraction is negative. And notice, I end up with the same thing both times. So it really doesn't matter what point you start with, and all you need to find the slope is just 2 points. Okay, so now let me these points and see what you notice here. Now, this time, if I read it from left to right, it kind of slopes down. So we can say the line slopes down from left to right. And when it does that, when it slopes down from left to right, we call that a negative slope. Okay. So let's move on here to the next part. And let's see what we have here. 6. And we have 2 more examples here before we try some practice ones. So once again, we're going to graph, find the slope. So we have start at the origin, 1, 2, 3, and then the second coordinate is -3, so go down -3, and then go back to the origin, left 2, and down 3. Okay, now let me connect these here, and let's see here. Let's see if I can. Okay, so connect your points and show that it's aligned by putting the arrows on the end. And now we have a horizontal line. So let's go ahead and count. Now, remember, we're doing rise over run, and to get from this point to this point, I don't have to go up or down, so we call the rise 0. And we're going to just start with this point, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, so it's 0 divided by 5, which is just 0. So when it's a horizontal line, it has 0 slope. You could still ski something that looks like this, but it has 0 slope. It's not rising, it's not going down, like the first 2 examples that we looked at. Okay, so I want you to notice something about the coordinates. So look at the coordinates and see if you notice a similarity. And hopefully you noticed right here and right here, they're the same. And the second coordinate is always the y value, so we notice that the y values repeat. So y values repeat. And it makes a horizontal line. And we can either write it as 0 like this, or we can also write it as 0 slope. Okay. Now, moving on to the next one. And we have started the origin, we have 2, 5, so over 2, up 5. And go back to the origin, over 2, down 2. So now let me just connect these here. And it's not perfect line, but we'll go with it. So let's put the arrows on the both ends. Okay, and now let's do rise over run. So let's see here. Let me go a different color. Okay, so the rise, let's start with this one. So we're going to go start here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we went down 7, so that's -7. And notice this time we don't have a run because we don't need to go side to side. So we have 0. And -7 divided by 0. You can't divide something by 0, so we call this undefined. And if you were to type this into your calculator, it would give you an error. It is impossible. There is no answer. So we call it undefined. Or, here's another one you can write for it, no slope. Because think about a vertical line. You do not want to ski on a vertical line because you would be going off of a cliff. And we all know that wouldn't end well. So we call this no slope. Now 0 slope you can ski down. Okay, positive slope you can ski down. And negative slope you could ski down if you were coming down the other side of it. Okay, so let's see what we notice here. Now study the coordinates again, and based on the last one, hopefully that gives you a clue. Is there something happening here? And you should have noticed that the x values are now repeating. So x values repeat, and it makes a vertical line. So we can also write down here, so we kind of have a recap. When it makes a vertical line, we say new slope. Now, when you write the slope of this line, you do not have to write both. You can write one or the other. However, if this, as you get into algebra, okay, you will need to know both. Sometimes they, on multiple choice, they might say undefined, some might know slope, so you have to know that these two mean the same thing. For our purposes this year, you can write one or the other, or if you want to write both to help you remember, that is fine as well. Okay, so moving on here. To find the slope of the line, you only need how many points have we used in the past several problems? That's correct. You only need 2 points. So we're going to find the slope of the line, and I'm going to grab red ink since this is a blue line here. And remember, it doesn't matter which point we start with. So I'm always going to pick 1 point and just go from there. So let's put your pencil here. And we're going to do the rise first. We always do the rise first. So we count up 1. So that's positive 1. And we're going to do a run of 1, 2. And since we went to the right, that's positive 2. So we have a slope of 1/2. This cannot be simplified. Okay, so I can just leave it as 1/2. Up 1 over 2. Or, if we had done it this way, down 1 over 2. So that would be negative 1 divided by negative 2. And if you simplify negative 1 divided by negative 2, you would still end up with 1/2. So you always have to simplify when you have 2 negatives, or if the fraction can be simplified. And you'll see later on that the fraction will need to be simplified sometimes. And actually, right here is going to be a perfect example. So let's start here with this one. And we're going to go up 1, 2. So our rise is positive 2. And our run is negative 2. So 1, 2 to the left. And 2 divided by negative 2, of course, simplifies to negative 1. So the slope is negative 1. Okay, let's move on and look at example number 3. Okay, let's start with this point. So we're going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my rise is positive 4. And my run is 1 to the right, so that's positive 1. And 4 divided by 1 is 4. Okay, moving on. I'm going to start with this point up here. And notice I'm moving all around. I'm not always starting with the 1 on the bottom. So that you can get a feel for different starting points for the slope. I'm going to start here, and we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So since we went down 5, that's a rise of negative 5. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So positive 4. And we have a negative divided by a positive, so when we have this, we just rewrite it with the negative in front. So we have negative 5/4. Am I going to mark it wrong if you leave it like this? No. However, I want you to practice seeing it this way because if you were to see this multiple choice, they're not going to put the negative usually on the top or the bottom. They're usually going to just stick it in front of the fraction. So I want you to practice seeing it that way. Okay. So number 5. Okay, this is one of those special lines that you don't want to be skiing down. But let me show you here. There are no points. So let's just pick any point. I can pick any point here because it's a vertical line. So I'll just pick these two. Okay, so remember, rise over run. So let's start here and we're going to go down 2. And since it's a vertical line, there's no run, so it's negative 2 divided by 0, which we said before. It's either no slope, because it's impossible to divide by 0, or undefined. For our notes, we're writing both ways, but when you do these on your own, I only need no slope or undefined if it's a vertical line. Okay, here's our horizontal line. So let's just start at this point. So there is no rise to get to this point, so my rise is 0. And my run is going to be to the right 1, so that's positive 1, and 0 divided by 1 is just plain old 0. So you can either write the number 0 or you can spell out 0 slope. Let's look at number 7 here. And notice now there are no points. So when there are no points, we have to make our own points. And when we make our own points, we're looking for where the line hits a corner. Like here, here's a corner, here's a corner. So let's look at the line here. Here's a corner, and I see the line on it, so I can mark this point. And I could do this one, but I want to show you something, so I'm just going to mark this one here. I can mark any of these that meet at a corner. This one, this one, this one, and this one. So let's just start from here. So we're going to go rise. So we're going to go up 3, up 4. So that's positive 4 for the rise. And the run is going to be over 2. So that's positive 2. And 4 divided by 2 is 2. Okay. Now, moving on to this one. So let's once again find 2 points. So go back to red here. And I see it meet at a corner here. And I see it meet at a corner here. So let's just mark those 2 points. Now, once again, I could have marked here, or even here, because all those places that I just pointed to meet at the corner of a box. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go down 2, so the rise is negative 2. And we're going to go over positive 1. And negative 2 divided by 1 simplifies to negative 2. Okay. Now, just to review, if you're reading this from left to right, this slopes up. So that's why this one has a positive slope. And this one, if I read it left to right, slopes down. That's why this one has a negative slope. Now, before I start this one, if I read it like a book from left to right, it slopes down. So we know our answer is going to have a negative slope. So if we don't have a negative slope, then we did something incorrectly. So let's find 2 boxes that meet at a corner. So I'm going to try this one. And I could pick this one, but I'm just going to go with this one. I'm still going to come out with the same slope. So we're going to, let me grab a different color so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to start with this point and count down 2. So because I went down, my rise is negative 2. And my run is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be positive 4. And a negative divided by a positive is a negative. And 2 over 4 simplifies to 1/2. So we have negative 1/2. And the last example here, I'm going to mark, let me grab the red, and we're going to mark this point, and we're going to mark this point. Now again, when you do these on your own, it doesn't matter which 2 points you mark, because this line is following a pattern, so whatever 2 points you pick, it's still going to follow the same slope. So let's start here, and we're going to go up 1. So up positive 1, so the rise is positive 1, the run is over 2, so it's positive 2, and the slope once again is 1/2. Now, this one, if I read it from left to right, is sloping down, so negative slope. This one, reading from left to right, slopes up, so positive slope. Now, let's wrap this up, and then you've completed these long notes. So, the conclusion here is this. 0 slope, think back, without looking at the bottom, 0 slope equals a horizontal line. And in a horizontal line, do you remember what's repeating in a horizontal line? Okay, if you said the y's repeat, you are correct. Okay, a no slope or undefined makes a vertical line. So up and down. Let me draw a vertical line here. And let me draw a horizontal line here just so you guys can remember what it looks like. And in a vertical line, of course, the x's repeat. So here's the concept summary to wrap things up. Line slopes up from left to right for a positive slope. A negative slope slopes down from left to right. A 0 slope makes a horizontal line. And an undefined or no slope makes a vertical line. So you can call undefined or no slope when you see a vertical line. Okay, that concludes the introduction on slope.